New York Giants, 31. Washington Commanders, 19. Tommy DeVito, his first win as quarterback of the Giants. They moved to 3-8. Commanders fall to 4-7. After we're talking up Sam Howell and he's turned a corner and everything. Not a great game from Sam. And it was, I don't know if we weren't expecting it to be like this, but it was the sack fest.
Sack off?
Or sack off, as you like to say. Tommy DeVito sacked 9 times officially. Sam Howell just 4 times.
Just 4. Yeah. No, Howell had a bad game. There was at least 4 teams yesterday that really seemed intent on throwing the game away on offense. Like, Washington had like 2 fumbles and an interception really early in the game. They then fumble away the opening kickoff in the second half. Sam Howell eventually manages to throw it away with a pick 6. Like, they just it was so obvious really early in the game that like Washington is a better team than the Giants, and yet they're really going out of their way to just give the game away. And it's like, how many mistakes can you make and still win a game? The Vikings were trying to do that last night. The Chargers are trying to do that. The Lions were trying to do that. There were so many teams yesterday that's like, you know those stats of like teams that are -3 in the turnover differential, like 1 in 187. It's like, let's see how far we can push that. How many mistakes can we make and still win this game? Washington was one of those teams, and apparently they made too many mistakes to win the game. So collectively, they made an absolute ton. And you're right, Sam Howell had his worst game since the Buffalo game, was it, where he completely melted down and couldn't get anything going?
Yeah, not only sacked 4 times, but the 4 turnover-worthy plays. They had multiple comeback opportunities, and then with 29 seconds left in Giants territory, Howell just lofts it up into the flat.
And perhaps the biggest thing,
not just late to the flat, but just
bad.
lollipops it up to the flat for a pick 6.
I mean,
by Isaiah Simmons.
The sacks thing, that's kind of around where he's been. The 4 turnover-worthy plays is a bad game by him. The biggest sort of outlier, though, from the rest of the season is 0 big-time throws.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about how he was leading the league in big-time throws and was still, top 10 or whatever it was in big-time throw rate. To have none of them in this game was pretty impressive. Now, second half, so he had this weird Sam Howell trademark pinball play at the goal line where watching him run the ball it's bizarre. It doesn't seem to relate to physics. Like, he's rejected from the goal line like 3 different times and ends up, I think, breaking the plane every time, but the play was let go and he ends up getting blasted to the turf at the end of it and checked for concussion, which he passed and he went back in the game. But, I don't know if you've always got these wit out before you got smacked in the head and after you got smacked in the head.
Yeah.
Stats, after he got smacked in the head, I'm sure that didn't help, is all I'm saying. Sam Howell had a very bad game, and getting smacked in the head probably didn't aid him in his pursuit. But on the one side, he played badly. Washington kept giving the ball away every 3 seconds. On the other hand, Tommy DeVito looked pretty decent.
He did. Yeah, so again, this is another one where he gets sacked 9 times, and I think on almost all of them, there's some kind of quick pressure, protection breakdown. How much is that on him? He certainly maneuvered the pocket into those negative plays a few times as well. But when he threw the ball extremely well. I also, there's always a couple games a year, too, when he's healthy. You see big play Saquon Barkley. Barkley had two runs of over 30 yards, toss sweep, outside zone play where he just, turns on the jets and creates an explosive play there. He had 57 yards through the air and the 2 scores. They used Barkley really well, and I thought we hadn't seen this all year where I'm like, hey, that's a good play call, right? Like, how many times this year have been like, hey, Giants are scheming it up a little bit today. They're doing a nice job. It was like they saved the good plays for Tommy DeVito here,
of course,
and they weren't letting Daniel Jones or Tyrod use any of them. Remember last year? It was way back, but remember last year watching Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones. And it didn't feel great offensively, but at the end of the day, it's like, Daniel Jones had a solid outing, and Barkley did his thing, and Jones, picked up a few first downs, but when they got to the red zone, they found, Daniel Bellinger. They schemed it up for Bellinger. They schemed it up for so-and-so, right? In the end, in the red zone. We hadn't had any of that this year from the Giants, but I thought in this game they did a nice job of getting some open receivers. And DeVito, again, 9 sacks is a monster in just 35 or so dropbacks, but he did a nice job executing.
He was sacked 5 times in the first quarter.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And then he settled down and started making these throws, right? So I thought the Giants did a good job, of creating some of those throws for him.
That pass to Saquon Barkley was that his first touchdown? The sort of wheel rail type throw up the sideline into the end zone was an absolute dime. Like, that was a beautiful pass. We had somebody, I think it was an email that came in where we'd said in the last week that DeVito isn't the worst quarterback in the NFL, which you would probably expect given the situation. And they were like, well, who is? I mean, I think he showed. Like, he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL. DeVito was intriguing when he came in the preseason as well. It's not like he didn't have the sort of DTR preseason or Aiden O'Connell preseason grades where everything was spectacular. But every time he came in, it's like, this is kind of interesting. Yeah. Like, he's got something to his game. I mean, obviously the sacks are ridiculous. 9 sacks in a single game is, even in this season of sack magnet quarterbacks like Sam Howell and Daniel Jones, like, that would be an extreme level. But to end up performing the way he did, despite those sacks, was actually really impressive. He averaged 9.5 yards per attempt. Well,
I know. That's what I'm saying. They hit the yoink play to Darius Slayton. So anytime you got a rookie quarterback, you got to throw the yoink in there, the throwback. The other red zone touchdown to Saquon Barkley, too. You're right. I mean, that first one was an absolute dime, his first touchdown. The other red zone touchdown was similar to what the Niners did with Christian McCaffrey in the tight red zone. Starting on one side of the quarterback, working your way to the other side of the field, and just outrunning the linebacker. I mean, this is how you use your mismatch running back, right? A couple plays per game, and when they come through, it's like, all right, there's your Saquon Barkley game. So it came with DeVito under center. So impressive job by the Giants there, and good job by their defense. I mean, the whole season, the Giants' defense has been hit or miss. It's been as volatile as they dial it up to be, right? And this was one of those games where they're forcing the turnovers, and DeVito did a nice job on the offense.
I'm also selfishly quite invested in Tommy DeVito because the memes are spectacular. Whether it's Sopranos, whether it's the Bronx Tale reference from the other day.
The Bronx Tale one that you sent me was fantastic.
The memes are great. So the longer he hangs in the NFL, the better, because every Sopranos picture that comes out, it's worth it. It's one of my favorite things this year.
I like Big Cat puts out his power rankings every week. He just makes up categories, of course.
Right.
And one of them was we call sauce gravy. And I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
That's my family. It's very relatable. We call it, it's gravy.
You don't have a chain, though. You need a big...
Oh, I mean, I don't look the part.
No.
Although, I was talking to some friends the other night, and we were talking about something, and I was like, man, I got these 2 uncles, and they never worked. I had these 2 uncles who never worked.
So did they have a lot of ready cash handy?
And they were, they never worked.
Yeah.
My whole life, for the 40 years that I knew them.
Mm-hmm.
No jobs. Always hung out at the club.
Yeah.
Downtown, and
nice suits.
One uncle, I used to go watch the Super Bowl at his game at his house every year, and he's like, he knew where the action was. I'm like, wait, we connected? They're dead now, but
yeah, suspicious.
Oh no, they just got old.
Okay.
No, they just got old.
Right.
But trying to relate to Tommy DeVito here a little bit. But yeah, Sunday gravy, Sam. It's gravy.
I mean, I was just making a meme reference. You appear to have connected him to the mob in the last 5 minutes.
No, you said Sopranos and a Bronx Tale. You're making those connections.
Memes. Yeah.
I'm not talking about Tommy. I'm trying to say, are we?
I was reading this article the other day that was talking about like the demise of the 5 families, and how once back in the day they were running everything and blah blah. Now they're like, how do you say this without getting yourself whacked? Now they're like 2-bit gangs, right? That don't really run anything in New York because Rudy Giuliani took them all down, right? It's just all back in the day they're running everything. They're Teamsters, blah blah. Now they've got Tommy DeVito in the NFL. That's what they're.
Just remember that was Sam that said
what
that.
Sam said, I heard.
Some people don't know the difference between you and I. So just make sure that was Sam.
I'm gonna have to flee the country because I've angered the mob.
And yeah. Anyway, Giants 3-8. They're heading for a collision course with the New England Patriots next week, with maybe one of the top quarterbacks on the line. Maybe they don't need one. Get Tommy DeVito. Sorry, I don't want to replace Tommy DeVito either. I don't want to get whacked for that either.
No.
So great job, Tommy. It's a great game. Great game by Tommy. I like Tommy. It's like we're going to give him A's. What about PFF grades? Do they crack down on PFF grades the same way they crack down on, the school teachers? Yeah, give this dude A's. Give the kid A's.
Yeah.
Do we have to give him 90s?
Tommy's on a protection racket.
Yeah.
Look,
Tommy's
guy.
getting 90s.
give me a guy show up at the front of the office in a bad suit with a wad of
Don't worry, I'll
50s.
get my uncle. I'll get Uncle Anthony on it.
Perfect.